It's the Bush League Mud Show.
It's the Bush League Mud Show. Let's go.
Are you ready?
Make some noise!
All right, let's do it. Welcome another edition, Slade.
PJ.
It's the Bush League Mud Show, May 2nd, 2021. All of your wrestling trending topics from the week. There was a ton. We got tons of notes, a lot to get into. What do you say?
Let's get into it. Yeah, a lot of stuff that's not, again, in the ring. It's everything behind the scenes, it looks like, is the thing that's hitting the big news wire.
Special shout-outs, Disney Course Media. Also like and subscribe the podcast. All right, WWE, let's start off with that news. They are the biggest company in the world, so a ton of the news revolved them in some way, shape, or form this past week. Partnering with another promotion.
Yes, that's the new trend in the wrestling world is you have to partner with somebody else. Of course, the AEW Impact thing, and now this one now is a little interesting because I guess for me the proximity of it is because they're all kind of near each other in the state of Florida, and it might make sense.
Yeah. So you've got AEW, Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They all seem to have a nice, cordial working relationship for the time being. In WWE, they've never shut it out. Triple H is always saying that the company is open to doing business with other promotions. But as always, as what I mentioned, they will only do business when it benefits them.
Why not?
So
it's worked.
According this past week's Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer reported that WWE is in talks and have been for some time with MLW. And it is the partnership that is designed to get some of their lesser used NXT talent some work. The agreement will be pretty much familiar or pretty much similar to the prior deals they've done recently with Evolve and, of course, back in the 90s with ECW. Yeah. So the NXT talent, they were appearing on some Evolve shows. It was streaming on the WWE network, and they even aired an Evolve event. It was originally reported back in February that NXT had plans for a second show, which was going to be tentatively titled NXT Evolve, which Gabe Sapolsky and Jeremy Borash, formerly of Impact, and Sapolsky, the former owner of Evolve, were supposed to be pretty hands-on with the show, and they already had content in the can that they were gonna air, but WWE even to this point has yet to mention anything regarding NXT Evolve, and it's unknown if and when the show will actually debut. MLW right now airing their Fusion program on YouTube and other platforms, and they just recently actually signed a deal with Vice TV.
Oh, okay.
So they've got some content that's set to premiere. Actually, yesterday would have been the first day, May 1st. So with this potential deal, PJ, being similar to the Evolve and ECW deal, is it fair to assume that WWE has plans to buy MLW in the foreseeable future because they ended up buying ECW eventually? Mm-hmm. They bought Evolve. It looks like they might get a deal done with MLW, and MLW comes with some equity. They've got a Vice TV deal right now. That's got to be attractive for WWE.
It might be. It all could be adding up to that as they get deeper and deeper into this deal as they do it. You know, the Evolve thing, they had somewhat of a working relationship before they officially bought them out because
getting their talent,
it was kind of like like you said, like the ECW thing where we didn't know they were doing it. They didn't make it up front, but behind the scenes they were, a little cash was going over here, or this guy can make this date or whatnot. So I think though with this MLW, and if it's specifically just with NXT, I think that's a great partnership for those two because they definitely need to get the work for these. They haven't been able to do any house shows, anything like that.
They can't get any work. They're just working at the PC.
So if they are, and they are all together, I think MLW, I think they're out of Orlando. I know they're out of Florida, but they have all that proximity together. They can work. They can get their talents over better. And the former writer, too, that head of it. Court Bauer, yep. I mean, he's head of it, so he's always, I guess, been in, somewhat of a WWE circle. So Yeah, it would make ton of sense. Obviously, though, like you said, WWE's not going to do this if it doesn't benefit them. And, there's some good talent out there. And, think about the talent that's come through there the last couple of years. You had MJF go out there. I think Ray Phoenix was in there. Some of those talents, maybe WWE's like, okay, we're missing out on some of these guys. Maybe we got to partner with MLW to get some of these guys through our system.
Yeah. Peacock is claiming 42 million subscribers for Q1. We're just trying to figure out how much did WWE really factor in the subscription upticks of this, and Comcast giving credit. The reason why we say that is because Comcast in their Q1 earnings call gave credit to both WWE and The Office for adding 9 million additional signups during the first 3 months of 2021. The Office came over January 1st from Netflix.
Yes. And they made a huge push on promotion on that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And WWE, that was a late addition. That was around March.
Well, it could have.
The deal was announced around
first
late
quarter
February.
would have ended at the end of March, so that doesn't count your Mania numbers. Yeah, well, I guess, because how many did the network have when it went down? It was like, I know they were under 1 million when they were, one of their last quarterly earning reports of how many subscribers they had. So what, then The Office had 8 million and the WWE had 1 million?
Well, that's what we're thinking, because
that's all I can reason on
they ended their last quarter at 33 million. They're around 42 now. And those were the two biggest additions that were added to the Peacock stream, which looks, if they're at 42 right now, it looks really strong compared to HBO right now. They currently have about 44.2 million U.S. customers. But here's the thing, again. How much of an impact that WWE Network have on the Peacock Network getting that many additional subscribers? And with Peacock's free tier, no one talks about this. They have a free tier. So of all of those new additional subscribers that they crammed in before the end of Q1, how many people are actually paying for this shit?
But they're still getting the subscriber. I mean, they could sell that to advertisers. This is how many eyeballs we're reaching. And here's the thing, too.
And Comcast didn't say exactly how many customers are paying. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a good point. But here's the thing, too, with HBO Max and the deal there, their numbers are going to go down because the deal with Warner Brothers of the new release movies is done after this year. So it is good for WWE in that sense is, they're building this audience. They have the pay-per-views now on Peacock and things like that, but they don't have any of the smoke and mirror things that HBO Max is going to be losing at the end of the year. So those numbers are going to go down. Peacock's, I would have to assume, maybe stays. They'll lose some, but maybe in that 40 million area.
Better retention compared to HBO.
And I think overall, I guess what I'm trying to say is that's good for the wrestling business. I mean, if we got that many eyeballs on it, that's got to help. Now, of course, they won't listen to what we want them to do in their business and that, but of the overall health of the wrestling business, that is some good news to see.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to consider this good or bad news for WWE, being they made some recent arrangements to accommodate for this network in their plans, but NBC, as you know, WWE, they recently moved NXT several weeks ago from Wednesday to Tuesday nights on the condition, at least from what they were understanding, that NBC was no longer going to be running the NHL games on the national network. They were most likely going to be moving it to the USA Network for Wednesday nights. Well, that changed.
They pulled the goalie on them.
That changed. It's amazing. Money talks and bullshit walks in this case. Turner now, of all the networks, the company that is over AEW, Turner announced as the second partner along with ESPN Disney for the NHL's package. 16 years NHL coverage on NBC. That's soon going to be over. Both sides opted not to renew their agreement past the 2021 season, as that's winding down right now. Turner Sports will now serve, as mentioned before, as the league's secondary broadcast partner. ESPN is going to be the primary. Turner is expected to divide the marquee games, the All-Star Game and Stanley Cup, between TNT and TBS.
Ooh, okay.
ESPN will be sharing the rights between the worldwide leader and ABC beginning next season. Now, NBC clearly they felt that the relationship, although they did about as best they could with the product, 16 years, they clearly wanted out of this. NBC reportedly offered $100 million to continue the partnership with the NHL. That would have allowed them to carry out what was believed to be the original plan of moving the games to the USA Network, which was the catalyst for NXT moving to Tuesday nights. Turner came in with an offer that clearly the league couldn't turn down. 7-year deal. A little over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So there you go. NBC said, we'll do $100 million. Yeah. Turner said, we'll give you $1 billion. Not a hard decision to make. NBC was ready to move on. NBC was in the final year, by the way. They offered $100 million. NBC was in the final year of a 10-year, $2 billion deal with the NHL.
Well, I guess on the, just to put the wrestling talk aside, think about NBC and the partnership of NHL when they inherited that. Yeah. NHL on TV was not in a good place.
It wasn't. They had lost their deal with ESPN.
Yeah, they were not in a good place. And NBC, they did, I think, everything, a great job, everything they could with it. Now, a lot of the matchups during the week, obviously, they were shelved to the network, the NBC Sports Network and all that. And that's where the NXT thing would have come into play because those midweek matchups would have been on USA. Are they airing them right now on USA or not?
No.
That's right, because that they're shuttering the channel at the end of the year.
Correct.
So they're still on there.
They're still on there for the time.
The Stanley Cup playoffs, though, I know we're cutting into some of the programming last fall because some of the NXT episodes got bumped because they were putting some of those on USA. So with the playoffs around the corner, it still could be a little factor. But like you said, though, now with Turner inheriting this next year, what does that do with Dynamite? Now, I know they've been pretty proud with the Dynamite numbers not this past week, but the 2 weeks previous, because TNT has been putting out press releases on how great the ratings have been. But I'm going to think, though, it's going to be hard. Again, this is a wrestling versus the mainstream sports argument again. Who's going to get more eyeballs?
The NHL is still a top 4 sport in NHL the States. And Turner offered an amount that the NHL couldn't turn down.
You can't. The NHL can't turn down $1 billion.
Money is what drive these rights deal. Bettman and the NHL now have some equity. They have, in 7 years, because both these deals with ESPN and now Turner, they're going to be 7-year deals. Now the NHL has themselves in a position where it could be a bidding war at the end of those 7 years if someone wants to be the exclusive carrier, or worst case, maybe they both still want to stay on, sign extension. You still get your product on various networks. Production-wise, Turner, for years, high-quality stuff, the NBA. They just recently, within the last decade, got into the March Madness stuff with the NCAA tournament stuff. So we know from a production standpoint, they're going to go all out with the NHL. They're going to make it look good. And not to mention, TNT Sports, they tend to lean a little younger. So it's a good way for the NHL to get into more households, that 18 to 34 that Turner and TNT, they make a big deal about, not just with AEW, but a lot of their and with the NBA coverage. So I'm really excited about this for TNT. I'm curious we talked about the commentary teams and people they might get for, are they going to try to go for that NBA feel?
I think. They might.
Of a pre and post game show, something like that. I don't know. Get a Darren Pang. Some of these.
Banger.
If things have blown over for Jeremy,
I was going to say Roenick has got to come back in this.
You need some guys that could draw some eyeballs to the product. Now, the effect on AEW Wednesday night. So, I will say this: as of right now, I think they're safe. I don't think that Dynamite, for the time being, I don't think they're in complete danger of losing their spot Wednesday nights. And Tony Khan's talked about this before, that it would, he's willing to move off of Wednesday nights as long as it's a good deal for them.
Well, yeah.
So he in a way has to be kind of excited about this because it could be a negotiating tool to maybe get a little bit more thrown in there because I have here in my notes, I don't think this will hamper any plans of them being immediately bumped off Wednesdays, but I do think for the time being that it does hamper any plans of the network launching that second AEW show that they have been talking about. So I think that's out of the realm for right now.
Unless they throw it on if they throw it on True TV or
an
something
HBO
like
Max
that.
or something of that nature. So that could be something that could be working in AEW's favor.
I mean, the other thing though, he might. That was a good thing for Tony Khan to say, yeah, we're willing to move off of Wednesday nights. Well, what if the network says, yeah, we want to put you on Thursday nights? Well, then, they got the NBA.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So
after NBA is done, what do we have in the fall in this country now? NBC or not Amazon's taking it over now. It's going to be streaming, but a lot of eyeballs are going to be on Amazon Thursday nights for football. So, I mean, that is not the greatest thing in the world.
Well, if they were to leave Wednesday nights, I think Friday is your best bet. Mm-hmm. They have a better chance of going toe-to-toe with SmackDown than they do Raw. Now, we've seen this 11 years ago. Impact tried it on Monday night. They did okay for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then it was death for them. It would be death for AEW to try and go to Monday nights. Tuesday and Thursdays, NBA, that's on lockdown.
See, I'm not trying to be an AEW hoarder here, but these numbers, they're getting closer, and I know they're not going head-to-head, but what was Raw? It was like a 1.7 this week. It was not good, and the highest one we got from AEW was 1.4, I think. 1.2, 1.4 range a couple weeks ago. I wonder if that would skew, and maybe they might think about doing the Monday night thing.
When we were growing up, before Nitro, Saturday nights, 6:05.
Exactly.
And people tuned in for it.
Yes.
Would people tune in for AEW on a Saturday night? Is Saturday a possibility?
I don't think so anymore.
Okay.
I think the viewing habits were different then. Okay. I think they're way different then than they are now. That Saturday night, I don't think that's a great slot for them.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they do move them, I think they're stuck. I think Wednesday right now is perfect for them. But yeah, if the NHL says, yeah, we want that Wednesday, or depending on ESPN and everything else, because they might have to put them on Wednesday nights if they're going to go on TNT because of ESPN having their NBA coverage on Wednesday night.
If TNT's paying $1 billion for the next 5 to 7 years for the NHL, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
First time you're going to be carrying hockey games. You're going to get some advertising dollars out of that, but you're spending a lot of money to carry these games. I don't think TNT will just designate it to just one night. I think you can see NHL games on Wednesday nights. You could see them on Friday nights. You could see them on Saturdays.
The Sunday coverage now with the NBC used to be Sunday.
So they're spending a lot of money. They're going to try and air as many games within their realm that ESPN aren't getting. The marquee matchups, they're going to want the big market matchups too, just like ESPN's going to divvy over. So I'm also curious about that as well. Yeah. You know, and this could be good for the NHL. I'm curious to see what these networks will do to help highlight, because one of my biggest, as a hockey fan, one of my biggest things in this country has been how we're not marketing our top players in that sport. NBC, it seemed like they were only willing to market those guys during the Winter Classic, a game that they've whored out completely.
You're right, because I am an occasional hockey fan, and right now I cannot name you the top three. I think Jonathan Stamkos is one. Is that right?
Steven Stamkos.
I don't even know his first name
right now. He's on IR.
That's the only guy I know. That's the only guy I know right now, because you're exactly right. They don't NBA these guys. They don't marquee their main players. So I think, though, that's good. Like you said, with TNT turning this thing over, they know how to market players.
Could they do for the NHL what they've done for the NBA?
I think they can, yeah.
Okay. Speaking of networks and professional wrestling, this is a tie-in here, and this was something I came across, and I said to myself, dude, I was like, I could see this, but the timeline wasn't matching up. So, and what I have here is the NFL. Did they really offer WWE back in the day to leave Monday nights? The reason why this question is asked is because in a recent interview, Charlie Haas, former WWE superstar Charlie Haas, claims that the NFL had talks with Vince McMahon about moving Raw to another night. Haas said, quote, "It was so popular that the NFL was willing to pay WWF at that time money just to move Monday Night Raw away so the ratings for the NFL and Monday Night Football would go back up." Haas continued that this is before Nitro got launched.
No.
The NFL was plummeting in the ratings because Raw was hot, really. They offered them a couple million to move it to another night, and they said no. Now, a couple things, and I heard you with the immediate no. There's a lot to... So... We have to get this straight. We have to get this straight. So a couple things with this. He's most likely right. Do I believe that the NFL at some point may have potentially called Vince McMahon about moving Raw, or maybe, trying to entice him to maybe get off of that? That probably did happen. The games were Monday Night Football at that time between 97 to maybe you could say as much as maybe 2003. I mean, they were the shits. There was no motivation to watch Monday Night Football. The viewing habits had changed in this country. It wasn't absolute must-see TV anymore on a Monday night to watch football. You had the Monday Night Wars going on.
Yeah.
That was killing Monday Night Football, especially in the 18 to 34 demo at that time. And Monday Night Football, if you remember, they were constantly making changes.
In the booth.
In the booth or on the sidelines. There were the horrendous trials that they gave out, like Eric Dickerson on the sidelines. That was atrocious. And I like me some ED, but that was bad. It had gotten to the point they hired Dennis Miller.
Yeah, they needed a little comedy aspect to it. They
needed something in the booth.
Different.
And Haas claims that this was before Nitro.
Here's my problem.
Nitro.
With all that.
Okay, yeah. Nitro launched on TNT in 95. Am I getting that year right?
Yeah, 95 is when they opened.
Which was around the time WWE was doing awful ratings.
Yeah.
In 95. Terrible. And Haas wasn't even in the company until 2000.
Yeah, I was going to say 2002 is when he debuted on SmackDown. So
yeah,
I was going to say he didn't really get in there until that. So I'm like, how the hell did he get this information?
Right. Who told? Now, there's no doubt in my mind that the NFL probably did just kind of put a feeler out there. Now, from the time frame you were talking about, yes, the after Nitro was on the air from like 97 to probably 2001, 2. Yeah.
That range, yes, they probably did because that's when they were doing huge numbers on Monday night. Yes.
Even Nitro towards the end was still drawing about 3. Think about that. Bad Monday Night Nitro.
Where Raw now cannot get into the 2s.
They would kill to get a 2 right now.
Yes.
And bad Nitro towards the end was getting around 3. So that was the only thing I could really pick apart. Well, there was a lot of things we could pick apart with Charlie Haas's claims on that. WWE news in terms of the front office. Adam Pearce has been promoted to a new role. Pearce is now working in a new role for the company after it was reported last week that Pearce had moved up within the company. PW Insider PJ is reporting that Pearce's new title is he is now the Director of Live Events. Now, you don't get promoted to that role unless the company obviously has plans soon of getting back on the road. Because in the past, well, Director of Live Events, what is that role? Well, it usually means you oversee the live events and you come up with the creative and match lineups for the touring. So Pearce is going to be getting, as I mentioned before, he's getting that job, which was actually John Laurinaitis' job before he went back to Director of talent relations.
All right, I was wondering, with the shakeups, there must have been some. It's not like they promoted him. It was like, we got this empty spot because we're moving things around.
Needed Field and Laurinaitis will not be on the road doing the live events. He doesn't have to deal with that anymore.
That might be
He just
good.
has to give the Future Endeavor calls.
That might be good for some of the talent from some of the things we've heard in the past.
Mario Lopez reportedly in talks with WWE. Did you hear about this? Do you need me to get you up to speed on this?
Yeah, you do.
All right. Mario Lopez has revealed that he's been in talks with WWE to get in the ring.
In the ring,
yeah. So
AC
Slater, who was a top-notch amateur wrestling star on the show, Saved by the Bell, is apparently going to be getting in the ring potentially. Lopez, he's got some experience actually with amateur wrestling from high school, and he's long been a fan of pro wrestling. He had Jerry the King Lawler recently on his podcast, and he asked the King for some advice, as he had admitted that the company had approached him about working together, which makes me wonder if Peacock put them up to because of the new
Saved by the Bell series.
Saved by the Bell series. So there's clearly a tie-in there with NBC and Comcast and WWE. And he said, Jerry, they're trying to get me to do something in the ring. For my kids, I think I want to do it. Get in there as a storyline. I'm almost going to be 48. I'm in pretty good shape, though, and athletic. Any suggestions, any advice I need to know when I get in there? By the way, I grew up wrestling, too. And so Jerry Lawler then went on and said, he's seen him on social media videos and knows he's still in great shape, and he's actually encouraging Mario Lopez to make the most of the opportunity. Lawler said, quote, I would say go for it. It's something that if it's been a bucket list or lifelong dream to get in the ring or do something with WWE superstars, I would definitely say go for it. So Mario Lopez, this something that's going to be a new or an ongoing thing year to year. I mean, they were impressed with the Bad Bunny.
Well, that's where I'm guessing this is what spurred it.
And Lopez even says he'd like to work a program with Bad Bunny, and I'm like, well, that ain't going to happen.
That ain't going to happen, but my guess is this is what spurred it, is they're looking for the next celebrity to bring in. Now, Mario doesn't have the following as Bad Bunny does, but like you said, he is in good shape. He is in fantastic shape. Problem is, you got to get in ring shape. And then you got to make it believable for everyone to think that this is going to be a real program, and you're just not going to be a one and done and out. Yeah. I mean, with the Bad Bunny thing, I got to give the guy credit. He stuck around for 3 months and got ready for Mania, and was there training and everything else, which obviously when there's no touring or anything else going on, what else was he going to do? But still, he didn't have to do any of that stuff, and he wanted to. So, I mean, I guess if Mario really wants it, may as well. It's just the problem is those writers that come up with the storyline, it's probably going to be the cheesiest thing of all hell, and it's not going to make any sense.
Pat McAfee recently was on the Rich Eisen show, and he talked about being a commentator so far for Vince McMahon.
Yes.
McAfee explained how Vince McMahon, whom he's referred to as the voice of God, remains hands-on with the company's announcers during the shows, and he gave extreme praise to Michael Cole for how he handles that job of calling a match and having Vince in your ear. I actually watched a clip, and Pat, I mean, it was very short and sweet, but, he's really getting into that. He's like, he's, like everyone else has heard the stories. It's one thing there, and he's helped with NXT. He's called some NXT stuff, but Vince was not in his ear.
And so his first week of SmackDown, he wasn't there either.
No, he wasn't. So he said when Vince was actually finally there and they're doing it, he's like, man, you start to do your thing, and boom, there's like Vince right there in your ear. So,
Nate, producer here. I love McAfee. Let's give him a shout out. I mean, he is the pioneer of... He was always meant to be the wrestling kind of guy. I mean, he even brought the NFL to that. I mean, his whole show, it's basically what you guys are doing down here right now. So,
well, we appreciate
love you,
it.
Pat.
If only if we can get that Pat McAfee money, that'd be great.
For the brand.
For the brand, baby.
It's Slade and PJ, Bush League Mud Show, May 2nd, 2021, talking some wrestling with you. Some drama You can't go a week without any kind of drama in the WWE or just the professional wrestling business in general. Drama here, Mickie James. She's got some more smoke for the company. This past week, Mickie James, she had took exception with how WWE treats older female wrestlers compared to the older male wrestlers. She said, quote, "I think the small-minded mentality sometimes leads to thoughtless behavior, especially for me, to constantly be presented as old. When I'm 41 and every single male champion has always been my same age or older and has been glorified for those reasons. As they should be. They're effing amazing. But why is it different for women? Or why is it different for me? Ageism is a real thing, and it's BS." WWE already seemed to be leaning towards, even before she got cut, I think it should be noted that they were already kind of doing some things to morph her off the roster anyway. She was doing some commentary with Main Event that no one watches. Yeah. So honestly, I would have never known unless it's, multiple media outlets had made mention that Mickie James doing commentary Main Event. And then she was also part of some panels for, NXT for their shows. Yeah. So they were already kind of starting to, transition her out. And dude, I think it's very unfortunate news. I think it's very unfortunate to hear. She's got a good point, because you're talking about a company that has no problem bringing in much older guys from the past because they're constantly leaning on the past guys to put asses in seats. Yeah. Okay. They put straps on them. Mm-hmm. They put them in primetime real estate storylines. Now, this isn't to attack these guys whatsoever because I think they're legit. I think Bobby Lashley is believable champ. Yeah. Bobby Lashley's 44. Edge came back after being away for 10 years. Edge is now 47. Yes. Goldberg in his 50s. Exactly. Taker kept leaning on that. Yep. Taker in his 50s. Brought Sting in several years back. All right. Older guys that we were putting, and, Mickie James has she has a good point. Yes. I think this is, though, why I could see where her point is. And the problem is, I think she came along too early, is because of the women's revolution in 2015. Yeah. I think that's the reason that the older women are not being looked at like the men, because the older men obviously now are the champions and everything. When we were growing up, it was kind of, that was the new thing, all the big guys. Now the women's revolution has taken over. A lot of people like that a lot more than the other product going on the rosters. A lot of these gals can go. And a lot of them can go. In her earlier days with the company, Mickie was one of the very few that could actually get in there and work. I think she would have been on that, Sasha Banks Bailey level right now. If she came a little later. I think that's the thing she's fighting here with this, because the women's revolution, you've got your younger stars now. Well, Charlotte's in her 30s, Becky's getting to her 30s. So, they're getting older, but for the Natties and for her, the world, I guess Tamina's too, the ones that have been around forever, they always seem to be the ones that got to put over the younger talent to do that. Now, they'll tease you every now and then, like they are now with the program with Natty and Tamina, where they might do a tag team championship run or something with them. And I do like that, to see them give a little shout out to them, because those are the ones that had to suffer through the diva shit and all that. Yeah. So the problem is, though, I think it's just, it's not, the timing is just off for her, or else I think it'd be a fantastic point. I'm not sure what they actually told her behind the scenes, but it just kind of sounds like that she's alluding to her release. Whoever told her, or who, talkings to her in the back, was that this is what they were getting at, which I think is effed up, if that's yes, definitely. She also made mention of someone who she had been ongoingly clashing with backstage. She said that person's still employed. She said, I will say this, that person that was is responsible for me feeling like shit. and I feel like completely trying to sabotage or devalue me or make me feel less than is still very much employed. And that's fucking the worst. You know what I mean? James said the person who is still employed shot down her ideal of an all-female brand within WWE over WrestleMania 37 weekend, telling her that the all-women's Evolution pay-per-view was the lowest rated pay-per-view in WWE history.
I don't know about that.
Did we ever get receipts on that at the time when that Evolution pay-per-view dropped?
No, I don't think
I
so.
don't think I ever looked at the buy rate.
I don't think they released that, but there's been some other terrible shows. I mean, that one had some drawing. Ronda Rousey was in it and everything else, so I don't know. I believe that.
Yeah. Carmella commented on not being on very much WWE TV lately. She was on the Bellas podcast.
Okay.
And the Bellas asked her about it, and she said, quote, "It's, well, you know how this place goes." Carmella said, "People that don't work here, it's hard to explain. Of course, I'm grateful I have a job. I'm grateful I work for this amazing company. But last summer, I was already off. I was just off TV for 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. I just sat at my home twiddling my thumbs. What am I doing?
Yep.
There was no rhyme or reason for why I was at home. I was just told, we're going to bring you back and do a different story. And then I kind of revamped my character a little bit, which is cool. It's nice to get a new coat of paint. Then I came back, have this awesome story with Sasha. Felt like I totally delivered." She said, "We had great matches, great promos. I just felt very, very happy. Felt like I proved myself." And then it's like nothing. So there's really no reason. I actually wasn't cleared for a little while after our match at the Royal Rumble. I dove out of the ring, and I was actually talking to John Laurinaitis about it. I just jacked my back up, so I wasn't cleared for physicality. But, I could still be in the storyline. But it just didn't work out, and I just kind of sat around after what I thought was a great feud. You just have to wait your turn. Now, I will say this, PJ. They repackaged her, kind of gave her the little shades of the Eva.
Yes, the Eva Longoria or the Eva. Yes, the Emelena kind of thing.
Emelena.
That's the model.
Basically,
thing.
she took
Yes.
over for what was supposed to be Emelena.
Yes.
We ran promos. We brought her back. This is where they went wrong with her, and this is where she got doomed, unfortunately. She got hot-shotted.
Yes.
Shot straight to the champ. Faced the champ twice. Tapped out twice.
Yep.
Done in my book.
Yeah.
No fault of her. That's just how she got booked.
Yeah.
They booked her
shitty. Yeah.
from the get-go.
Yep.
So, yes, new coat of paint, but the same shitty car.
Yeah.
Not calling her a shitty car, but just it didn't change anything.
And she played the character fantastic. She was great in it, and the whole Reginald thing too. That was a good off. It was a throwback to her and James Ellsworth. Right. But with Reginald on there. And the vignettes were great. And then when she came out with the attitude and all that stuff, it's like, oh, okay. And that first night, too, when she challenged us, so that's great. But then we both looked at each other, we're like, here's the problem.
Why now?
Yep. Nothing
Where do you go
but
from
down
here?
from
she
here.
ain't winning. Sasha
Yes.
just gotten the belt.
Yeah.
Finally, it just gotten the belt back. So we knew Sasha wasn't losing, not to her. Yeah. And then they faced each other twice, and both times Sasha made her tap out.
Yeah, the booking again was shitty. They did not. Again, they got to start lower and then raise up. I have no idea why you felt had to go right to the top on that.
Well, when it comes to making new stars, Chris Jericho kind of knows a little something about that in terms of from being in WWE for many years. Chris Jericho talked about WWE's struggles to make new top stars. According to Jericho, Vince has no one to blame but himself. Jericho said, quote, "When Vince goes to the investors during the conference call and says the Raw ratings are down because we haven't created any new stars, that's completely on you guys," Jericho stated. "We, AEW, knew from the start we had to make stars. A lot of the guys on our show, Bucks and Kenny included, Hangman Page, I said it on the Broken Skull sessions. They weren't known on a national level, television level.
And they still aren't.
Correct. We've built them up, and then suddenly all these kinds of, the second wave of guys and girls are getting in there. He also went on to say, he says, quote, and now AEW is dangerous because we have 12 people that you can put in the main event at any point in time. Next month, it'll be 14 people. You can do that. And to me, that's just smart booking. It's what any professional sports team does. If you're talking about the Rangers, you're talking about the Knicks, you're talking about the Giants. You want to build next year's all-star team starting now, and that's what we did. It's really working. When you see those ratings coming through, I do take great pride in it because I feel, once again, because I was with AEW when it started, and I was kind of the first face of the company, when there's more faces now, that just shows we're doing things right. Now, there's no. I completely agree with Jericho on the WWE thing. This is nothing that no one's. Everyone said this, right? This is all because that product is geared to a crowd of one.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay,
and he's absolutely right with the investors calls and all that. Yes.
When Rhea Ripley, who has been cheered, continuously by the fan base for the last several years, people genuinely like her. Mm-hmm. She looks credible. She looks believable. First time in a year you had a live crowd, WrestleMania. She came out to a great reaction for 30,000
pops of the weekend. Yep.
And then the Raw after Mania, we pump in booze for crowd noise.
Yeah.
So that's bullshit to say that you listen to the fans in terms in terms of who gets over and who. No, you already have it in mind what you plan on doing with these people, and it's really frustrating, as we've talked about on episodes before, to see people. And no one's ever really talked about this openly, but deep down there are some guys and gals at the NXT level that dread getting that call up to the main roster.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the protection that they used to. Now you're under Vince's thumb.
Yeah.
And what Vince says is what goes. And even if you're not coming from the outside, we've seen it now. Even people in his company coming up, he still has to do something. It's not like back in the day, guys and gals from the outside were coming in. So he changed up their gimmick, or he did something
to make it theirs.
Right. Here are people in his own system that he is not hands-on really with NXT. That's Triple H. That's a Regal thing. And he's got, his crew down there helping him. Shawn Michaels has been there, all that.
Yeah.
But they get called up to the main roster, and Vince can't help it. He's changing shit on his own people.
I wonder if he thinks NXT is just like a down south territory. Like back in the old days, he thought it was Crockett. Maybe he just thinks it's Crockett again, and that's
even though he's funding
he owns it. Yeah,
he's funding it.
Yeah, he just thinks it's a Crockett territory, and I'm just gonna fuck with them when they come up here. I mean, you got Keith Lee. Yeah, you bring him up, you change his music, you give him a jump shorts and all kind of weird look when he came up. And like you said, too, some guys that fear getting up on that main roster. Well, let's see. Let's look at NXT. Ciampa, Gargano,
Ciampa is the one who's made it very well known that he wants nothing to do with the main roster. He will go home. He'll retire. He'd rather leave the business than be on Raw or SmackDown.
So there's three that come to mind right there that, hell no, we're good here at NXT. We will stay here because we see the shit you do.
How much longer can Adam Cole hold this thing
I don't know, man, because he's... that's the thing. Vince probably... I wonder how much of the HBK Triple H influence is on Vince to keep him down there. Say, oh, you don't want him. You don't, because they could keep him around since he's, arguably their biggest star.
Even though they know he's the goods, but they're just afraid of what the old man
he should be a champion on the fucking main roster. But they'll keep him to himself because they're afraid of what the hell will happen. I mean, what shades of probably Daniel Bryan when he first came up. We'll make him a champion, but then we'll get him squashed in Mania in 8 seconds. I mean, that's probably the thinking Vince would have with him.
Yeah. Jericho's saying they've got 12 main eventers, and then next week it could be 14. I think that's reaching a little bit. We got to be realistic. And, you know, when I have these conversations with people, we talk about sports Hall of Fames, and you talk about how the Hall of Fame seems to be turning into the Hall of Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have we now done that with professional wrestling in terms of what we consider to be a main eventer?
Yes.
Main eventer, in my eye, is a household name or someone that can really push the needle on the ratings. Mm-hmm. I think they have, and of these guys that he mentioned, he didn't mention Darby Allin. At least not in my notes. Now he did a much longer. This was I'm paraphrasing that interview. I'm getting some quotes from that interview, and he could have very well mentioned Darby Allin. And I know you've kind of felt a certain way the last couple of weeks, and we'll talk about AEW more in depth as we go through the show review. But you know, Darby is one of the very few that I could say, okay, this guy is probably pushing the needle for them for ratings.
Yes.
Hangman Page has gotten cold the last couple of months, as we'll talk about with the show review as far as what they did with him.
I'll explain more of that, of my reason. And I'm not down on those guys. I like those guys a lot. I think there is good hope for them. The booking is my issue with that. Yeah.
But he's talking about, well, on a national network, we've built these guys up. People didn't really know the Bucks or Kenny. I think the Bucks, for the most part, before AEW, the Bucks were making some noise, and a lot of that was, you know, the fan base getting into the New Japan stuff. The Bullet Club merchandise that New Japan allowed them to carry in Hot Topic, stuff like that. So the Bucks were synonymous with that. But Kenny Omega, I still don't think they've done enough. I think they have him right now currently in the right role. We'll talk again. We'll talk more about that when we get into the AEW show. But I think they're reaching a little bit in terms of he's saying every week we've got a different main eventer. Well, that's probably a big problem with AEW too. You got too many people that you're considering a main eventer right now. And I've always said, just have your main core, because in order to make new stars, you got to already have stars on the roster that can work with people that can be made into stars. Mm-hmm. I don't think they have enough of that right now. So I think for the time being, and I get it, they may not want to come across as a promotion where the actual guys working in the office running this thing are putting themselves over, but I have no problem for the first couple of years if they would have booked it that way, where your core, because the cat's out of the bag, as I look at a cat, cat's out of the bag, everyone knows, okay, after Tony Khan, you've got Cody, you've got Omega, you've got the Bucks. Jericho has some influence on that as well. That's your core in my book. Those are the most synonymous faces of the product that people are going to associate with AEW. So I had no problem if those were going to be the guys that you just pushed heavy for the first couple of years and used those guys, a Kenny Omega, to put over a Darby Allin or.
Well, my thought on that is they are so anti-WWE, and they see the system over there. Well, Triple H buries these guys, and he's married to the boss and all that stuff, where these guys are in the power. Oh, we're going to do the opposite of that. I think, like you said, no, you have to do that here because you're the stars. You need to do that.
You're the main people that people know of the most, and if you're not, you need to get people around the country. You're on national TV now.
Yeah.
You need to introduce and tell a story for these people for new viewers. This is all about new viewers, and I'm curious of how the relationship between Turner and AEW will be now with the NHL coming in, because TNT and TBS, Turner, they're going to get spoiled by these numbers they're about to pull with the NHL.
Yeah.
In terms of the advertising and in terms of the revenue that they're going to generate from that, and what kind of pressures that put on AEW, where Turner may say, guys, okay, what we're doing, for the first, couple of years, you guys have done okay. Now we need to think about the next level step, because this is about making money and drawing more viewers. What can we do to maybe within the next couple of years double our audience? And after that, go for another, and just chip away. Well, the way you're doing it right now, it's like we're cool with the status quo. The current status quo is what we're cool with.
Yeah, and I've got a bad feeling, though, they could find themselves on True TV in a couple of years if they keep doing this. Something's got where they
would actually fit in with the comedy.
That would fit in great. It would fit. It would be true, but they're going to lose a lot of eyeballs on the product. It's going to get down. It just is. It's like when WWE, I know when they went to Spike and all that, TNN and all that, they were the main draw of the channel, but you still kind of thought they were jettisoned, and I know they kind of felt that way too, and that's why they went back to USA.
Yeah. When you think of professional wrestling, one of the things that you always think of, you think of the wrestlers, the characters, the gimmicks, and the theme musics.
Yes.
That go along with those characters. And the main guy that, I remember being a kid and buying those WWE albums with theme songs on it. And man, who is this Jim Johnston guy? And then they start doing features on him on Superstars and talking to him about how he goes through the mindset of creating these songs for the wrestlers. And I just thought it was just amazing. Jim Johnston, who was that guy for many years for WWE, no longer with the company. It's been about 4 years now. He left the company in 2017. He had a chance to recently sit down. He spoke on to Insight with Chris Van Vliet, and he kind of chatted a little bit about this, about the current state of professional wrestling and the theme songs and how he feels about that. And he said that he had revealed to Van Vliet that he's never been contacted by anyone from AEW. That was a question that came out if AEW had reached out. And I'm thinking, of course not, because they've been buying the rights to play other people's songs for wrestlers. Yes. So he said that he's been a little surprised. He said, quote, "No, and it amazed me from a business angle. If I was in that workroom, I would say, Vince just fired Jim. This is a way we could really stick it to them. Find that guy and get him here this afternoon." Doesn't make sense to me. He went on to speak on AEW, PJ. He gave his thoughts on the current theme songs that both AEW and WWE are using, and he admits that he finds them all to be really mediocre.
He is correct.
Yeah. He says, quote, "I felt a great responsibility, like part of these guys' careers and successes were in my hands. The music now in WWE and in AEW, I'm sorry if this is mean, it's all really homogenous and really mediocre, and it doesn't have anything to do with the characters. And I think that's why there are less big stars."
Yes, I do agree with him on that.
I don't think that there are no potential big stars on the rosters hiding there. Before Steve Austin was Steve Austin, he was the ringmaster. And there are lots of stories like that. These people need the right storyline, the right costuming, and definitely the right music to lift them up. He talked about the Hall of Fame. That was another question that came up and why he's not in it. He said, quote, "I think if they haven't already, they're not going to. It's one of those pesky things where you don't want to be petty about it, but it's like, you guys did fire me, but you want me to come back and put me over by doing the Hall of Fame? Would it be an honor? Sure, but at the same time, it would be uncomfortable. There are people there that I don't want to see and don't want to shake their hand. But it's not a big aspect of my life now. But one of the positive things after doing WWE for so long is you get to write whatever you want." Ooh. Now, we knew to a degree that it probably, when he got the call or the speaking, the talking to, the meeting, whatever, that relayed the message to him that he was no longer going to be with the company, they immediately started ripping songs down off of wrestlers. Kane's entrance, I want to say that switched up a bit. There's some other
and there's
theme songs
on the
that
network they scrubbed his
they've
songs
scrubbed
off.
correct.
Yes.
So clearly it didn't end
well.
Yeah. And he has no ambition whatsoever to go back. And now, does that necessarily mean Vince that he doesn't want to see or shake hands with? Could be Kevin Dunn.
Kevin Dunn is my
Could
thought,
it
maybe.
be?
I don't know.
I don't know, but for so many years of doing that for the company, and we've you always hear these stories about people that have long working relationships with Vince, and then he fires them, and then they come back eventually. Look at Bruce.
Yeah,
Bruce has been fired a couple times. Bruce is back.
Yep.
So you would love to think that Jim Johnston is, will hopefully make a return in some way, shape, or form someday. Maybe it's recommended they bring him back. Maybe it's something to look into. Part of making new stars. Maybe having Jim come back and produce music.
And that's where he is right on. The song is part of the package. The vignette process.
Got Kane over immediately.
Kane, I think Johnston did the Ultimate Warrior theme. I mean, he did basically all the ones we knew growing up.
Yeah.
And what's the thing that gets the pop right away? It's when you hear that first note of that song. You hear it, and all of a sudden, boom, glass breaks, boom, Austin. Rock, smell what the rock is going. All of that
guitar riffs,
stuff,
right?
All of that stuff he came up with, and he is absolutely right. You hear that first note, you rise out of your seat, you're pumped up, and I think that is part of the things that's missing, because some of the stuff they put out the last couple of years, and I just noticed they changed Roman Reigns' song now, but I was going back in my mind and thinking, what song in the last 10 years is one where I hear it and I know who the hell's coming out and he's a big star.
Right.
I mean, I'll know the song. I know who it is, but it doesn't give me that reaction. I guess like I said, Bobby Roode, but CFOs did that one. And I mean, they did.
Now, I always thought that Johnston did Randy Orton's voices.
I think he did.
Okay. So how were they able to
get,
how were they able to keep that one? Was that an Orton decision?
Well, who's the band that was it? It's not Disturbed, but I think that's because Rev Theory had that that song. So I think maybe that's why they were able to keep that, since the band did it instead of Johnston. But I mean, that's part of the package right now that's missing. And with AEW, those songs are terrible. I'm sorry. You got Jericho with his own, with Judas, obviously with his band, and he's, they've got
good song, but they've hoarded out.
They've hoarded that one out,
especially when they were coming out to be heels, and the crowd was singing along. I said, I'm done.
Yeah, Cody's, I guess, is all right. Cody's is an all right song, but then when like the Rights ones they buy for Jungle Boy, and then the Pixies for Orange Cassidy, which I still don't understand.
Omega's just makes me want to play Nintendo.
Omega's is a Nintendo one, brought over from Japan. I mean, that's the thing. That is a key piece to it, and I think he's right in some of those comments. You've got to have the right song with the right person, or else it's just a bland package put together and coming out there.
Well, let's talk about the bland show that was Monday Night Raw from this past week. We're not going to do too deep of a dive here, but go ahead, as you were saying.
I'm just going to say, I've already told you there's one thing I am looking forward to.
Okay. And that is?
You want me to go right now? I know it's cheesy as all hell, but RK Bro, I am 100% on.
Okay.
I am for it. Maybe it's because I remember the Riddle Dunn thing at NXT, and they had some funny segments and how they were trying to get the Dusty Trophy to Portland and they couldn't fly and all that weird shit. But I'm for the RK Bro thing. I think with Orton, his demeanor, and then just watching Riddle and all that, plus it can turn into a good blow-up feud after it's done to help Riddle out, because they haven't done much of that. I mean, the stoner stuff's getting a little old. I'm for this RK Bro. I think that was one of the positive things that came out of this show.
We're clearly going to get a match eventually when they break up. What if they threw the curveball? Now, I know Orton's always enjoyed being the heel.
Yeah.
Doesn't really enjoy being the babyface, but what if they threw a curveball and Riddle's the one that's turning on Orton, and we get a meaner side of Riddle? And this Orton angle is a way to kind of center that Riddle where it's not so out there, not as goofy anymore. It's a way to make him show a different side.
What if, I like where you're going. What if they made him the new legend killer? Since he's always on Twitter mouthing off against Goldberg and Brock.
Yeah. New legend killer, and it starts with Orton.
Or it starts with Orton or something like that. I like where you're going with that.
There, we just booked a Mania match for next year. Or Mania Backlash.
Well, they'll probably throw it on next week and throw it away, so you can't use it for next year.
So what do we get out of this Raw? Braun Strowman secured a title shot for WrestleMania Backlash.
God damn.
It's not just Backlash anymore. Every time I say Backlash, I think Joey Styles.
And here's the problem, too. They're doing WrestleMania Backlashes, but what are they doing on Raw and SmackDown right now?
Well,
they're giving us WrestleMania rematches, so why do I even need to watch Backlash?
This is another Raw where they gave you the same matches pretty much as the week before. Starting off, Braun Strowman defeating Mason T-Bar via disqualification.
These guys, the poor guys, they took their masks off.
And then they still put face paint on them. And they actually cut a pretty solid promo to begin Raw.
Mason T-Bar.
Yes, even though Dio Madden was just calling matches for you a couple of years ago.
Yes. Poor Diet Coke. I mean, he can't do anything.
The show is scheduled to open with the tag team match between Strowman and Drew McIntyre versus the former Retribution members. Instead, Strowman argued with McIntyre over who needed to listen to who backstage. This was really cringe. I just hate when they, and it's nothing against Braun Strowman at all, so I don't want this to come across that way. But Braun Strowman, when I watch him and what he's about and his gimmick, his character, I'm not expecting long-winded promos. No. I shouldn't get long-winded promos out of Braun Strowman. I shouldn't get backstage. They always want to open people up and show more of their personality. No, Braun Strowman, I just need him to say very few words and just come out and kick ass like he does.
And that's a bad thing with Braun is people, this stuff's coming across like he's a big dope or he's an idiot. When you see his interviews and you see him not scripted like this,
he's money.
He's a great guy, great talker, great everything. But they throw these shitty dialogue at him before he goes on, and I just feel sorry for the guy because he's trying his best to get it through, but it's just like that's not him. We're not believing it.
Yeah. Strowman argued with McIntyre over who needed to listen to who backstage before he beat Mason T-Bar by himself, turning the bout into a handicap match. It's led basically to the same result as McIntyre's match with the duo the previous week. Again, same matchups. Mason T-Bar, they continued to double team past the referee's count, drawing the DQ before McIntyre ran in to make the save. Mason T-Bar then defeated Strowman and McIntyre via countout in a tag match. So unsurprisingly, the situation, it led to a straight tag match as originally planned. Things went south for McIntyre and Strowman when they seemed to have had a match in hand before McIntyre accidentally clotheslined Strowman outside the ring. McIntyre unable to beat the referee's 10 count after being thrown over the ringside barricade, giving Mason T-Bar the win. After the match, a frustrated Strowman hit McIntyre with a running power slam. Strowman able to manipulate into carrying the stipulation that he will be added to the WWE title match at WrestleMania Backlash with a win. MVP and Lashley came to the ringside during the match. Strowman took over the match and was about to hit McIntyre with power slam. Then Lashley caused a distraction. MVP pulled McIntyre from Strowman. T-Bar and Mace then runs in as McIntyre was lining up a Claymore, allowing Strowman to hit the pickup to pick up the win. So that secured his entrance into the title match. But
another 3 away for the title.
Yeah, another triple threat. These fucking triple threats.
Now with the T-Bar and all that Mace, they're gonna run.
Jim Cornette has always said that one of his biggest regrets is telling Jim Ross when Ross called him about how to do a triple threat. He says is one of the worst things he feels like he's done to the wrestling business was when he told, before he got there full time, he told the company the ideal of a triple threat. How many triple threats do you think they do a year?
We've just had
about a half dozen,
5 or 6 in the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, WWE felt that they needed to go out of their way to let you know on their website that Braun Strowman competing in a handicap match, tag match, and a singles match all in one night had never been done before. This is something they're very proud of to let you know that Braun Strowman is the new holder of a WWE record.
That's where we are.
How about we had him in 3 different matches because we didn't really have much creative going on, and it's a fucking 3-hour show?
Yeah. So that from the WWE.com, when Macho Man won the tournament at WrestleMania in 88, won the tournament, won the 3 matches, won the tournament. That was a great feat, but this feat is somehow better because this guy did it on Raw. I'm just why are we reaching for comparative facts?
Savage didn't work a handicap or tag match.
Exactly.
They were all singles matches.
Yes.
So that's what they want to let you know. Look, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want to see Braun Strowman when he came back before Mania. I was cool with going 6 months without Braun Strowman. You gave him to me 3 times in one night.
Yeah, it's getting too much. And from here, where are they going to go with him? That's. It seems like the Shane thing, they threw him into that. They really didn't have any plans for either one for Mania. So they're like, well, we'll match you 2 up and we'll just throw this out there. And now, Elias and Riker, they're not attacking Strowman after that match. So there was no reason, I guess, to have that match in the beginning. And now we're throwing him into the title picture. And, well, we know he's not going to win the title.
Another highlight of the show was Charlotte Flair apologizing to end her suspension. Remember, we got the storyline, $100,000 fine.
But she didn't go to Adam Pearce, though. That was the whole curveball.
Yes, so after having been indefinitely suspended for attacking a referee the previous week, Flair issued the apology. Flair explained that instinct just took over in the moment. This led to Sonya Deville to announce the suspension had been lifted, at which point Flair also demanded and received an apology from the referee.
Yes, she dressed down the referee.
Which I thought was good. Backstage, Adam Pearce took issue with Deville lifting the suspension for what he felt was an insincere apology. Flair went on to then defeat Mandy Rose via pinfall after hitting the natural selection. Deville chose Rose as Flair's opponent as Rose interfered in the 6-women match. The 6-women match earlier in the night. Flair repeatedly had issues with the referee throughout the match. So this is an ongoing storyline between Flair and the ref. But she managed to keep her composure before finishing off Rose with a natural selection. I will tell you something. I actually like this. It was something fresh, because I think we just may get an item out of Flair and Deville.
Yes.
Deville could be slowly but surely building her own staple underneath Adam Pearce's nose.
That would be nice, because we've been wondering, why haven't they done anything else?
Now, I thought Sonya should have been in the Hurt Business.
Yeah, that would have made sense, too. Yeah.
They were teasing that a female could have been in the Hurt Business. Yes. I thought, well, Sonya Deville.
Yeah, ever since she came back, she did the GM role, but they've been making it real quiet. But now, with not getting Pearce's attention and all that.
The way that they shot it, and they're walking side by side up the ramp after the apology, I said, I think we got something here.
Yeah.
Charlotte, could have a big badass by her side to kind of be her enforcer, although they kind of start to build Flair into being a badass herself. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. Now, we're not going match for match. I decided that going forward, we're just going to summarize the highlights of these shows, the very few that we can scrape up. But I will give you what else happened on Raw. We had a match of Kofi, Xavier Woods, and Damian Priest versus Riker, Elias, and The Miz. They defeated those 3 via pinfall. Woods pinned Riker with a small package.
That's right, yeah.
The the roll-ups and the
schoolboys are making a comeback.
We also had Sheamus and Humberto Carrillo going at it. This is after Carrillo answered Sheamus's open challenge Sheamus had attacked Carrillo the previous week, for answering the open challenge. The same thing happened again, though this time Carrillo got the better of things, taking down Sheamus to end the segment. We got RK Bro in action. They defeated Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. You talk about a fall from grace. Oh, my goodness.
Feel sorry for Shelton, for both those guys, though, too. I mean, it's just I wonder what the hell happened backstage where they had to get these two guys off of the Hurt Business stable before Mania and now doing jobs for everyone.
All right, you break up the faction weeks leading into Mania. It just didn't make any sense. We had Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, and Rhea Ripley defeating Asuka, Naomi, and Lana.
Heel Ripley again.
Well, I was just very confused by this. I hit you up, and I was like, dude, why is Rhea Ripley? Aren't Jax and Baszler supposed to be heels?
Well, they're forcing the Rhea Ripley heel. Yes, they are.
But remember, they listen to the fans.
Yes, they do.
Never mind the crowd of one bullshit. We had Alexa Bliss appearing on Alexa's Playground.
Oh, yes.
Bliss said that she was going to unleash Lily on the rest of the WWE locker room and to not blame her for what happens. That was Raw.
Yes.
That was Raw in a nutshell. We get to SmackDown. SmackDown, we came into the week where there was a little bit more on the line there. There was reports that Daniel Bryan's contract was coming up with the company, and as he's winding his career down, there are dream matches that he's never got to work that he would love to explore.
Okay.
He is reportedly looking for a deal that would allow him to still work for the company, but still work outside the company and work
Good luck with that.
Correct.
Because I know Scott Hall went before he went in the 90s to go to WCW. One of the things he wanted to do was do more Japan dates because he was making some money over there. And the company squashed that and said, no, we can't have that. You got to be exclusive to us. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get what I guess Hall couldn't get in the mid-90s.
So WWE took notice. Everyone took notice of this because they put a stipulation. This played into the storyline currently with Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. We had ended the previous SmackDown the week before with Cesaro trying to challenge for the belt, and Reigns said, "I want nothing to do with you, dude. Yep. Can't you take a hint? Like you tried to cut a promo on me, and we walked out of the ring.
Yep.
You're beneath me. You don't deserve a title shot, but you, Daniel Bryan, I want you. I'm tired of you. I'm sick of you. I don't want to see you anymore. And if I beat you, you must leave SmackDown."
Yep, that's the key word.
Not the company. Yep. You must leave SmackDown.
Yes.
I don't ever want to see you on my show again. So we had a match, the champ, the big dog, versus Daniel Bryan for the Universal Championship with that stipulation on the line, and Reigns defeated Bryan.
Very good match.
Very good match, as we knew it would be, via submission to retain the title. The bulk of the show they really tried their best to hype this match.
Yes.
They had people doing the video chat, selfie promos, with predictions, and I thought it was unnecessary, but they were trying to create and build an illusion to make you think that Bryan actually had a chance to win this match. And I was cool with that.
And they had a big thing they were going against, the NFL draft.
You had the NFL draft.
So they were trying to...
Even though it was night two.
Even though it was night two, but still you're going against that beast. You're trying to keep that interest factor to keep you lured into it. And it got a little old towards the end when they were running those packages.
Now going into that match, after they got really heavy on airing those to the final hour of the show.
Yeah.
We got new entrance music. As we talked about Jim Johnston earlier, we got new theme music for Roman Reigns coming out for this match. The two engaged. It was a pretty back and forth match. We saw a series of convincing false finishes. Bryan hitting a running knee, even locked in the yes lock a couple times in this match.
Yep, we told that story.
Reigns eventually snapped. Basically went ape shit on Bryan with some power bombs and some ground and pound before finishing the match with the guillotine choke.
Mm-hmm. His new finisher. I mean, that's his new deal now.
So, this switch to his left arm after Bryan had damaged the champion's right arm throughout the bout. So they did a pretty good job of keeping that on the mind after the match. Reigns then proceeded to grab a chair, went to continue the assault. And then Cesaro ran in and to put a stop to that. At least he attempted to. Gave Reigns a couple of European uppercuts. Jey Uso then took out Cesaro with a super kick. Dragged him into the ring, tied him up in the ropes, forced him to look on as Romans proceeded to basically hit Bryan with the chair before the show went off the air. I thought it was a brilliant match. I thought it was very well done. And now we'll see what happens with Daniel Bryan next. Now, we knew before Mania, at least the last 6 months, it had been reported that Bryan's also played a hand in creative for SmackDown.
Yeah,
and that would explain... he's, was a big proponent of Jey Uso doing more single stuff. He was a big proponent of Cesaro. A lot of guys that you wouldn't necessarily usually see be featured on some primetime real estate segments. Bryan has some history with some of these guys. He worked with Cesaro when he was Claudio in the Ring of Honor.
Right, yep.
And you've got Zayn and you've got Owens. He's got familiar faces on that roster. I don't know how much of him was thrusted for that triple threat at Mania. I mean, it only just made sense.
Yes, it did.
He had been cutting some pretty good promos about winding his career down and wanting another shot at the belt
in the main event.
And in recent months leading up to Mania. So with the contract thing up in the air, do I see him leaving? I don't necessarily, not at the moment, but we've seen guys, again, we've seen Kurt Angle, we've seen Booker T, we've seen guys leave the company at some point, only to come back. Do I think his relationship, if he were to leave, are the doors closed? No, of course not. He's got a couple things working for him. People love him.
Yes.
He's got credibility, and he's married to a Bella.
Yeah, that helps so.
So that
well, plus, too, his career path is kind of the opposite of, some of these guys where they left to go kind of to an indie promotion or whatnot, but they were raised in the WWE. Not Booker per se, but Kurt, straight WWE guy until he said, I'm going to TNA. Where Daniel worked his way up through the indies, through all that, and then got to the WWE. Yes, you could say what you will about the creative and all that stuff, but they do tend to have a nice, backstage area and all that stuff that you can get used to where you don't have at the high school gym, bingo halls, all the other stuff where they're putting on these indie shows.
Yeah. Another highlight of the show, that was Big E being robbed of the United States title against Apollo Crews. I thought this was another very well done thing. I think it came out with the right result. I don't expect Apollo Crews to be losing the United States title, at least until SummerSlam. We've repackaged him.
Yeah,
we've had so many years of unfulfillment and underutilization when it comes to Crews. They've been trying to find a mean streak in him. They've been trying to find something that works. This works, and with or what are they calling him now?
General Aziz.
Yes, Aziz. I wanted to call him.
I still call him Dabba-Kato.
I wanted to call him that so bad, but no. So this match went down. This was a disqualification. So a little old school. Before the match, Big E cut a pretty passionate promo about winning back his baby, the Intercontinental title, the belt that, according to Jericho, Vince McMahon does not give a shit about, which is an insult to every wrestling fan, by the way.
It is.
Big E got off to a fast start, used his power to get the upper hand on Crews early. Crews was then able to fight back, hit Big E with a suplex from the ring apron to the floor. Crews kept up some offense of his own, had a springboard moonsault to the outside, then found himself again on the defensive as he got caught with a Big E belly-to-belly suplex. The momentum continued to swing wildly before Big E kicked out of a Crews frog splash before hitting the big ending. And before the 3 count, Big E was pulled from the ring by Commander Aziz for the disqualification, which allowed Crews to retain the title. Now, there was more to this. After the match, Kevin Owens then ran in to save Big E, but was taken out when Sami Zayn also ran in and hit him with a kick. Further attacks on Big E. Zayn began eyeing the Intercontinental title, but handed it over to Crews. And despite begging off, Zayn found himself on the receiving end of a Nigerian nail from Aziz. So
Nigerian nail.
The Nigerian nail.
Okay.
What else happened on this damn show? Well, we had the Street Profits and Bianca Belair. They defeated the team of Robert Roode, Dolph Ziggler, and Bayley. Tamina and Natalya defeated Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. That team, they continued to have some miscommunication. Baszler is the one eating the pins.
Yes, so far, yes.
And Baszler ate one in this match from Tamina. And then we had Aleister Black.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. The Black promo.
Yes, he read from the Tales from the Dark Father, talking about his time in high school and another strange pre-recorded video segment, which I'm all for. Look, if this is gonna I think you were fine with the original gimmick of Aleister Black, but if this is what we're gonna go with, hopefully they do.
Well, I think they're trying to get back to that, and with these vignettes, they're making more of a darker, ominous character,
telling you the story of how he got
there, and I'm liking it. So hopefully they don't screw it up when he gets into the ring. Hopefully.
It's the Bush League Mud Show. Slade, PJ here in the dungeon. Dizzy Course Studios. Producer Nate on the ones and twos over there. Or how many keys you got on that thing?
One, more than two, but it's okay. I like the ones and twos.
Yeah.
AEW. Well, before we get into AEW, this does relate to AEW, but let's talk about Impact real quick. Okay. This won't take long. Quick. I promise. How do you think Impact fared in their first TV show since Kenny Omega became their champion?
Well, they're on a Thursday night still, right?
Correct.
There was a big event that happened in this country on Thursday night this past week in the NFL draft. I'm going to guess the NFL draft got more ratings.
What was that?
Yeah, I'm guessing the draft got a little more coverage because of a certain quarterback that may or may have not been traded, so more eyeballs were created on that. I'm going to say Impact did 80,000 homes.
Ooh, you really,
maybe,
really mean to them.
Well, they've been in 100,000, so I'm just.
Yeah. So Thursday's Impact television show produced about 120,000 viewers for Access TV.
I was only off by 40.
This was according to ShowBuzzDaily.com. The viewership count was down from the 145,000 viewers who had watched the previous week. So there you go. That's
shout out to those 120,000 diehards. I mean, you really want those Impact results.
Chris Jericho says that people know who Kenny Omega is now.
Well, now they know. That's their champion.
Now, when it comes to the Impact AEW partnership, there were a few people, very well-known people in the professional wrestling business, that gave their take on what they think so far of the AEW Impact partnership. Starting off with Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff talked about it. Booker T had also made some comments as well. Bischoff said, quote, "I don't watch the Impact product. I just can't. I'll just leave it at that. Nobody gives a fuck. I guess it's presumably some kind of benefit to Impact to have talent from AEW come over and participate on their show. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to watch it. I'm sure the action is good. I'm sure there's some great matches. I don't watch it, but I'm guessing there's some great matches that take place. If you're a fan of it, great. But step back, take your fan hat off, put on a business hat and go, okay, well, why does it matter? How has it been performing? Who has it benefited? In terms of numbers, how has this benefited anybody? Or is it really diluting AEW in particular, in my opinion, and not really helping Impact? Because when the AEW component of this eventually goes away, if indeed it does, I'm assuming it's going to stop at some point. What do you have left? You have less than you started with because you've been building your brand around something that's only temporary. Yeah. I get it. I understand why they did it. I understand what their thinking may have been. I don't know. I have no insight. But if the thought process was, well, look, they're on TNT and they have 750,000 viewers at that time. Now they're up to 1 million. AEW, kudos to them for that. But if you're impacting, you're delivering 130,000 viewers a week, which is basically a YouTube video, and you have an opportunity to get your product and your brand on a much higher profile network with 4 or 5 times the audience that you have, why wouldn't you do that? I get that. There's nothing wrong with the logic. But what has the dividend been so far? Have Impact ratings gone up week after week? That was on Eric Bischoff. Now, Booker T also put in his comments on what he thought of Kenny Omega becoming the Impact champion.
Okay. And something, Booker would know.
Yes.
Spending time there.
Correct. He tells a story about how they made the Legends belt for him.
Okay.
Only to have him lose it in a match he never competed in.
That's right. He said, I'm not doing the job.
So he said, I'm going home.
I'm going home.
Booker T with his thoughts on this. He said, quote, I don't know what Impact is thinking right now. Maybe they're thinking about the rub. It's a cool moment for AEW. It's not a cool moment for Impact Wrestling unless I own both companies and I was working the fans at the same time with both my companies.
Yeah.
For Rich Swann to go out and lose the title to Kenny Omega, it does absolutely nothing, in my opinion, for Impact.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but for me, if it was my company, it's just something I would not have had go down. That's just me.
Yeah.
So
my guess is they wanted the pure shock value. They thought maybe the pure shock value. Oh my goodness, two opposing promotions are working with each other or against each other. That's the problem though. When they built this whole thing up, they didn't do invasion angle with it. They wanted to do the opposite of an invasion angle because it's all been done before, and they want to be so not doing those things. But it's so ridiculous.
We gave no promo.
Yeah,
no one on AEW. No. It was never mentioned about Rich Swann.
Never showed up on Dynamite to
and we knew once that match was made, Kenny Omega was winning that match.
Yes.
It was the only way that you could have gone about doing business with that match.
Yeah,
which actually it wasn't too bad of a match. Had a few flunders, but what match doesn't these days?
Yeah, so
again, we talk about Hall of Fame, which is now the Hall of Good. The status quo has been lowered for today's professional wrestling standards. So you're going to get that match.
And both those guys, Bischoff and Booker T, we've been kind of saying the same thing.
And they both worked in Impact.
They both worked there, and for Impact to make the decision to put their world championship on a guy that they don't have contracted is strange enough. Where we thought, why is AEW working with Impact at all? Because they're not giving them any other thing. My guess is it was just to appease the guys backstage because they wanted to work with the Good Brothers again. That's my whole. That's what I was just thinking and shooting here is just they didn't come with a contract, or the Good Brothers didn't want to sign at AEW at the time, or whatever. Or maybe Impact offered them more money. Hard to believe that, but. This is a way to work with their friends again. That's the only thing I can conjure up.
You talked about the AEW Impact Invasion angle. Chris Jericho recently talked about on why there has yet to be one.
Because Impact doesn't have anyone you know. Flat out.
Jericho says, quote, our roster is jam-packed as it is.
Oh.
And I think our involvement with Impact is pretty much what it should be. I'm not saying this is in an egotistical way, but AEW is at a completely different level than Impact is. So anything that we're doing with them benefits them a lot more than it benefits us, in my opinion. And I think the fact that they've had Kenny Omega there, they've had Private Party there, that's a bonus for them.
That's a bonus.
Chris Jericho will never go to Nashville and work in an empty studio in front of somebody. There's just no reason for me to do that. If those guys came over to invade, who are they going to bring?
I'm thinking the same thing. You're watching this and you're like, who the hell did they get off the streets for this?
They would have to grab some former Vince guys, right?
You would have
Eric
to.
Young,
but then
Tommy Dreamer.
Maybe Christian's an inside mole and he's turning on and he's working for Impact.
Maybe he's the leader for Impact.
Maybe he's the leader. And what the hell show would they put this on? One of their damn freaking YouTube shows. I mean, that's the thing. It would probably get
an invasion
buried
angle on Dark.
It would probably get buried on that. I mean, he's right. He's right. Why the hell would Jericho work in an empty damn place in Nashville? But yet, yeah, if Impact were to invade, you wouldn't know who the hell they are.
But they got mad at Sammy Guevara for not wanting to do it.
Exactly. How the hell could they get, pissed him? And that's Jericho in these quotes. He's working everyone. I mean, he's doing a great job. He did the one earlier, getting on Vince, and now this one, how AEW has superior talent and all this. I mean, he's obviously drinking the bubbly a little too much.
He went on to say, if we needed to make it big, we could. But right now, our roster is so jam packed, and we're doing such a great job of creating our own stars. As it is, there he is. He's back on that. You could always do an invasion angle at some point, but I just don't see why that really benefits AEW right now when we've got so much going on and so many of our own guys who are really breaking through to the next level. I want to keep the focus and spotlight on that.
All right. But then there's so many guys they don't know how to get. I mean, it's just you have a lot of guys, but you have a lot of guys no one knows. That's the thing. It's the invasion of nobody you knows and then a lot of guys. No stars, just a lot of guys.
A big acquisition that is being reported on AEW's part after reported negotiations that started with Tony Khan over a month ago. It appears that Tessa Blanchard and her husband Daga are reportedly on their way to AEW.
Oh, okay. It's a package deal, I see.
Well, curious how they're gonna do that. I mean, Tessa would have to be on her own, right?
Yes.
They need it.
They need her.
They need that injected to the women's division.
Now, would they make her champion? That's the other thing, because they have Thunder Rosa and they haven't done anything with her.
Blanchard's time in the industry hasn't gone without controversy. There was allegations of her being hard to work with. Mm-hmm. There was reports from multiple women in the business about some potential racist comments that she's made in the past. And she's denied the claims. It's worth noting that AEW, they have talked about a concept of using the real life stuff of her being difficult to work with and some of her past indiscretions that she's been alleged to have had. They want to potentially work this in an angle to build a redemption type of.
I don't know.
Yeah, they want to give her character a redemption arc.
And you have her dad on the roster, even though he wasn't, really around with Tully. I mean, this is that. I don't know if that's the way you want to go with her. Keep her being a badass. I guess. I don't. I don't know. Well,
I guess they want to bring her in, and they've and the way that they've made comments, it seems that Blanchard and Daga was wrestling for AAA down in Mexico. He had just recently vacated the Latin American Championship this past week, so it seems
the timing is coming.
So it seems that he dropped the belt, he did the honors, and that they probably are on their way.
I'm just wondering, because we've heard reports with her in WWE, but I'm going to guess they had no interest in Daga. They just wanted her. That's why I said, well, this is a package deal, because that's probably what's maybe drawing them. They can both work together and all that. And with WWE, they might have just put her on NXT right away when she thought she should be on the main roster, where you don't have to deal with that at Dynamite.
Where does she fit in the women's division in AEW? Now, do I think she immediately upgrades their division? Absolutely.
I think this is one of the rare cases you have to hotshot her to the championship. You got to have a name on that.
Because we're building Jade Cargill to be a badass heel in that division.
Yet. Yeah. She's not there. Yeah, Jade's not. She's getting there, but she's not there yet. Britt Baker, I guess, with the whole rankings thing and all that.
And we'll talk about AEW here in a little bit. Yeah. But yes, this is. I mean, it's something that. I mean, she definitely makes them better overnight in their division. They could use it. Well, let's talk about the show.
Okay, we may as well.
Yeah, this is the home stretch here. It's the Bush League Mud Show, talking wrestling with you, Slade, PJ, here in the dungeon, Dizzy Course Studios. We kicked off Dynamite with a match, and they usually want to grab your attention immediately with one of their promoted marquee matchups for the show this week, or this past week, was a match of the ages. Cage and Page.
Yes.
Brian Cage of Team Taz and Hangman Adam Page. Team Taz, before the bell even rang, they attacked
What
Page.
did we have? We had a run out.
We had a run out. We started beating up on Page before the beginning of the match. That allowed Cage to take an early advantage. Cage, dude, he looked pretty dominant for the most part of this match. Picked up the surprising win. People were not expecting it, but this was something that it's unfortunate. Now, Page came into this match as the #1 contender, so it got people already thinking about the Page Omega match. And my thing was, still too soon.
Yeah.
Do I think Hangman could be the guy that should be, to get it off Omega? Absolutely. You're going to need to transfer to a babyface. But right now, with the combination of what Omega's got going on with his crew, with the Elite and Callis, the Invisible Hand, and he's still dealing with Moxley and Kingston, all these other people, it's still just too soon. And plus the way that they have been booking Page the last couple of months, I couldn't take him seriously right now as the #1 contender anyways.
That's why this rankings thing is all screwed up. My whole thing is, the hottest guy I think you have is Darby Allin. So on your rankings, even though he's a champion, wouldn't he be in the picture for your main championship? Yeah. I mean, that's why these rankings make. I was surprised that Hangman was the #1 guy because you had him goofing around with the Dark Order and winning lawnmowers and stuff.
Yes.
In first quarter earnings, you didn't really hype him up the ladder. So to him to be #1,
it didn't really beat anyone high on that list in the process.
So that's why
did the ranking system really work in AEW?
That's why I'm confused by it. And for Brian Cage, they had to do something. Team Taz was a laughing stock.
Yeah.
They were terrible. I mean, they had no credibility.
No sense of relevance as a unit. They were starting to
buried them, and I guess you needed to give them a win here for something.
You had to give Cage and Team Taz a win. So there you go. That's what came out of there. After that, we had an Elite limo promo. We had the Invisible Hand, Don Callis, the Good Brothers, the Young Bucks, and Omega in the limo. Omega cut a promo on Moxley and Kingston, and I thought it was pretty solid. They used it all up to set up a match between Eddie Kingston and Michael Nakazawa.
That's right.
These guys, they're goofy. Omega cutting the type of promo that he did in the limo, it's more him, the obnoxious heel. He seemed pretty confident in what he had to say. I think putting the champ in the suit, you never go wrong. I've always said a heel champ in a suit, you can never go wrong with that. My only thing about this faction is the Bucks are tag champs.
Yep.
The Good Brothers lost theirs.
That's right. Yes, they did.
Why are the Good Brothers content on hanging out in a crew where there's another tag team that actually has gold?
And that we were teasing a feud towards or early on.
But now we're all good.
We're good with that.
You would assume we still will get that match some point,
I would have.
right? They'll have to be bickering, and this will probably be either a title or the Good Brothers have to go back to Impact.
We may hot shot this in 3 weeks, and that's at the pay-per-view instead of a real build of that, but yeah.
So after that, we get a match of the Young Bucks versus the Seidel brothers. Not sure why I'm seeing the Seidel bros
Like I told you, they're pushing them big on the YouTube shows on Monday night and Tuesday night.
So
them and Omega, yeah.
When I'm watching this live, I have one opinion. I have to go back and watch the show again, or if I can't watch the show in its entirety, I have to go back and watch at least highlights, or I have to find a way to watch these matches. And I usually come away, sometimes I may come away with the same opinion, and sometimes I may come away with a different take. This match, not an awful match. I thought it was solid, but I didn't really care much for the goofy. If they weren't selling, they were overselling. I'm talking about the Bucks.
Yes, it was.
They were
way too much.
That for me was, that I could do away with, but not a terrible match. The Bucks win, and then at the end of that, we get an appearance from the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels and Kazarian, SCU.
Yeah, who I thought they were done being a tag team.
Right, but they came out to reset the reminder in your head, the storyline that if they lose together as a team one more time, they will break up.
Now it's that. Okay.
Well, it had always been that way.
Okay.
It had been that way going back to the last fall. They came out with that stipulation, but we didn't do anything with them as a team much. We didn't do much. So they had to come out and remind everyone that if they were to lose again as a team, they're done. So they used that opportunity to call the Bucks entitled overdressed bitches. Their words, not mine.
Okay.
And implied that they would be challenging for the titles. So right now, you really don't have too many credible tag teams that could really go with the Bucks. So this gives them some time to kind of feed the Bucks someone to have a decent match with. And Daniels is winding down.
Yeah.
In his career, I believe he's pushing 50 now.
Yeah.
He's about 48, 49. After that, we got a Jade Cargill promo.
There we go. More promos.
A lot of posing.
Yep.
And if I looked like that, I'd probably pose a lot too.
Yep.
Basically, the whole meaning of this promo was just to let you all know that she's there and she doesn't need a manager.
Oh, okay.
She can do fine by herself.
Okay.
Moving on, we got a match of Orange Cassidy versus Penta El Cerro. This started off a little slow because of the side antics.
Yes.
Especially on the behalf of Cassidy.
We had the kicks.
Hands in the pockets. Yep. And my thing is, with Cassidy, I at some point we're going to have to evolve the character. It can't be that forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought we were going in that direction after the matches with Jericho.
Yes, when he talked on the debates and all.
Absolutely.
Like, oh my God, he said something.
Cutting promos and letting him talk a little more. Yeah. It was okay. Nothing special. Cassidy picks up the win. Did nothing for me.
We had the weird spot again when Alex Avalio, his manager, talked about the moms again. Penta says your mom's a whore. I mean, he didn't even say that though. He's like, he was about to get to it, and then that's when they beat the hell out of him, and it's just like, it's the strange spot at the end of the match where he decides to cut the promo.
Yeah. After this, we had a Britt Baker promo where she once again reminded you that she is the #1 contender for the women's title. I am not sure what has taken AEW so long, dude, to finally just pull the trigger and let Baker have a run with the title. Mm-hmm. We have shot her up the rankings, but she's been getting beat. People forget, again, Thunder Rosa won that match.
Yeah.
Baker had been in a tournament previously to be a contender for the title.
They had to lose early.
Yes, she lost early.
Yeah.
The image of her bleeding from the face, that match, she lost.
Yes. Exactly.
But she's your #1 contender.
She's your #1 contender.
This is why Tessa Blanchard needs to be in AEW.
Or not. That's the other thing. I don't know.
The Inner Circle, Pinnacle, Blood and Guts Parlay.
Yes.
Now, I went back and I want your thoughts on this because
I'm going to give it to you because I've got a couple of thoughts on
this. Was probably my favorite thing on the show. Mm-hmm. I thought it was an old-fashioned build-up.
It was.
To pay off a match that didn't involve anyone touching one another. Mm-hmm. I think this is too soon. I don't think we've done enough to merit a Blood and Guts war style match just yet because
on free TV.
But I get it. They're not doing as many pay-per-views, and they don't know when they're going to go back out on the road. So I'm at least fair as far as that. I think this is too soon. I think we're not doing enough of these teams fucking with one another for a while, but no one got put through a table.
No.
There was no silly overdone antics. Both teams just looked ready to go. They did their parts. The guys that needed to talk, they talked to sell this thing. It was just old school promo. The teams in the ring talking about what they plan on doing with one another, doing what they could do to sell you on this match. I gave an A+ for the effort. Mm-hmm. It was my favorite part of the show. Go ahead and neutralize this shit.
All
because
right.
I know you're about to.
Here's my, and I did like the promos leading up to it. And then you have Jericho come on the mic. Okay. He said he's going to kill them. This goes back to a Grillin' JR story when he was working with El Gigante and how they had to teach him to cut a heel promo on Ric Flair.
Oh, Elegante.
Elegante.
Yeah.
And Elegante gets up on the mic and says, Ric Flair, I'm going to kill you. And JR says, well, no, George, we're not going to kill him. We're going to, you want to be mean, but we're not killing anyone. You got Jericho in this promo with JR at the booth. And I was just wondering if he was having flashbacks when Jericho's like, we're going to kill you.
Well, we had...
No, you're not.
We did have... And he wasn't the only one. We had multiple mentions of death.
Death mentions.
In this parlay.
You're not killing each other.
We had Dax say that he was willing to die in this match.
No, you're not.
To die for his homies, for his crew. And I'm like, you guys just got together 3 weeks ago, and you're already ready to die for them.
No, you're not going to die in this.
And then we have another reference to Santana and Ortiz about holding their kids tight and hugging them, and
these guys are going off to war. Yeah,
right,
it's like, no, you're not working the front lines. Yeah. You're going to Jacksonville to be in a 2-ring match.
So so what, for what
the
this is supposed to
promos
be,
were good until all of a sudden they started saying we're going to kill each other. It's like, no, you're not.
Sanderson practice might have a little issue with that at Turner as well. It might interfere with the NHL
but
money.
Like you said, too, it was classic. It was done. Why like the one-on-one sparing of the interviews? They went at basically, who's going at who in the match. But the whole deal of this was, to get the rules established. Did that happen?
No one knows what the rules are.
No one knows, and that's what this was supposed to be. The parlay.
They didn't talk about the rules at all.
No one mentioned a damn rule. That was my other thing. I'm like, okay, you built this up as we're going to have a meeting about the rules. And they went on for 10 minutes and no one mentioned one damn rule.
Oh, well, they were busy trying to get their shit in that promo.
To kill each other. Yeah, it's like, no, that's not happening either. We're not having Jacksonville PD on standby to do charges here.
Well, something that I wished got killed was this matchup between Eddie Kingston and Michael Nakazama, which it did. Kingston refused to face Nakazawa.
Thank God.
He ended up demanding a match with Omega, who appeared and denounced the idea. Omega said, quote, we're sending the goons after you.
Yeah.
You don't get the champ. Well, that goon ended up being the Young Bucks' best friend.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Cutler.
Brandon
Cutler
comes out. Kingston gets hit in the back with a laptop by Nakazawa, which really didn't do much. Yes, Brandon Cutler, he came flying through the entrance, which I actually thought was pretty funny. He said we're gonna send the goons, and that reminded me of the Clay goons from the Power Rangers back in the day.
Yes, exactly.
They were just there for bodies.
We're not giving you the main.
They didn't inflict any damage whatsoever. They got their ass kicked on every single episode. That's exactly what Brandon Cutler was in this. This was followed shortly by Jon Moxley coming out, who attacked Omega, threw him into the ring. Kingston threatened to break the ankle of Omega until Don Callis appeared. The invisible hand gave into the babyface's threats, granting Moxley and Kingston a match against, of all people.
Now,
you can have anybody in that crew.
Yep.
The Bucks, if you're teaming together, you could go after the tag team titles. You might want a fucking no DQ match maybe with the Good Brothers. No, we want a tag team match with Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa.
That's what I wanted you to tell everyone your thoughts. You told me the night when you have the champion of the company in a compromised position in the ring, a chair around his ankle, and you challenge him to what?
A tag team match between he and his butler.
Not a championship match.
No.
A tag team match.
No.
Good stuff.
After that, we had Taz and Christian Cage in the back cutting a promo. Taz talked about Brian Cage tearing Adam Hangman Page into pieces and how he should be the #1 contender. Of course, he was going to name drop Christian. He said that the Team Taz was not done by a long shot with Christian Cage. And, of course, as soon as he said that name, Christian Cage appears into the shot. Cage massaged and soothe Taz's ego for a little bit, talking about Taz being one of the top guys back in his day and making guys tap at will and being one of the biggest badasses that the industry's ever seen, and then went into how his new crew Team Taz, he's got some young gunners on the squad that will eventually find their way to success, and Taz will basically be fed off the coattails of those of that. This is just basically a back and forth, and he plans to devour one by one Team Taz.
Oh, all right, one by one.
Hopefully we get a match with Hook and Cage.
I don't think he's ready yet.
Okay, well. After that, we got a match of Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford.
The alien's back, yes.
Yeah, she is back. She the ladies had men by their side. Statlander had Orange Cassidy, who came back out.
Oh, that's right.
And Penelope Ford had her husband, Kip Sabian. I put down here, sloppy match that unfortunately had me distracted with Sabian and Cassidy on the outside. That's what I got out of this.
And it's funny, too, because something that would happen after this...
yes, we will
he,
get to
he didn't know where he was.
Yes.
But he was down at this match for 15 minutes.
There was no Miro.
Yeah.
After that, we had a video package of 10 from the Dark Order. They were promoting the TNT title match that was going to be coming up as the main event versus Darby Allin. He dedicated the match to Brody Lee.
Yeah.
They gave note that Brody Lee was the guy that brought him in. Brody Lee was the guy that showed him a new life in the world of professional wrestling. He was going to go out and get that title back for Brody Lee and for the Dark Order.
Here's my thing with the
very
Dark
well
Order.
done.
It's very well done, but
it didn't give me a feeling whatsoever that Tim was going to win this match.
And when do we get to the point where the Dark Order moves past Brody Lee? I hate to say that. I may sound like a callous asshole. He passed away in December, obviously way too young.
I know what you mean. Who's going to take the lead of being the leader,
the new
and
leader,
and we don't get you to take them seriously?
Yes, to take them seriously, and to not like every promo is, they're dedicated to him and all that, and it's
which in theory makes them baby faces, sympathetic baby faces, but they run out. We had matches where they were eyeing up Sting a couple of weeks ago.
Well, in this match too, they ran out and then Sting pushed him back, and it was just weird.
After that, we had the Factory versus the Nightmare Family. I don't give a shit about this feud whatsoever, but the Factory, I have it here. The Factory won, and I didn't care.
And then there was a aftermatch.
Yes, the meat of the segment came after the match. It was the return of Cody.
Now, Slade, when I pull up into the parking lot with a bus, what do you think's going to happen with said bus? Maybe something like a move off of the bus, or, we're going to go on top of the bus. We're going to do maybe an exciting move, and someone's ass is getting thrown off that bus, right? Not here. A figure 4 on top of a bus was our burn off of this thing.
Aubrey looked bad in this.
Yeah, where she was trying to, no, stay away. Oh, yeah, well, I'm going to follow you on top of the bus anyways. What the hell?
It wasn't a sanctioned match.
Terrible.
Why is the ref going up on top of the
And why did we
bus?
have a stage crowd that looked like they were getting ready for a Super Bowl halftime performance suddenly run to the bus and watch this horse shit? It was so terrible. I mean, they're trying really hard to get this angle over. We know Cody's winning the thing in the end. But yeah, for Cody to do a figure 4 on top of that bus, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what you're doing?
This is a match that's going to be going down on next week's show.
It already went down. I mean, after we had that, why do we have the match?
Well, Cody versus QT.
But again, he put him in the figure 4 on the bus. On top of the bus.
All the signs point to Rhodes getting the revenge.
But he already got it.
One has to wonder, what will this mean for the Factory once QT loses to Cody?
He's going back to the school to teach the kids because they got nothing for him.
Okay. I have here the American Nightmare. Cody, I mean, they came off the tour bus, I thought, right? The Factory? So what
They
was
came
Cody?
off the tour bus, and then Cody
Was Cody
snuck in
hiding
there.
on the bus the whole
He
time?
probably was. It's like, good luck, guys. I'll see you back here for the post angle as he comes off the bus. Yeah.
I mean, AEW, they're trying hard to do a solid job booking the factory. I think they got something with Anthony Ogogo. I didn't like that, this is what I did like. He punched Billy Gunn in the gut with that punch the week before.
Yep.
Gunn came out for this match selling the effects. He had taped up ribs.
Yes, he did, yeah.
And then they shitted on that punch in the match that they had just
That's
had,
right,
the
they did.
trios match.
Yes.
So something that could have been legit in professional wrestling that could have ooh and ah fans, because we don't really get that much anymore where we put certain moves over to that degree.
Yeah.
We shitted on the same punch that had Gunn tape up his ribs the week before. We kind of shitted on it in this match.
You also made a great point. I don't know if we talked about it, but his Ogogo's debut was the same night as Tyson. And that punch was featured in that episode. I don't think anyone remembered it because all you would remember is Tyson.
Well, you do, but we knew that Mike Tyson getting involved was going to be throwing a right hand on someone.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have saved the Ogogo thing for another week, not put him on the same week as Tyson. And it's funny that you mention that because Chris Jericho was asked about what's changed at AEW recently, and he said they've actually been having more backstage meetings between the agents and the booker, and they're trying to avoid having multiple things, having the same things happen
week after week.
Well,
I was gonna say.
They don't want to be in a position, because he said they've done it before where the same thing happens in different segments on the same night. Someone getting hit in the head with a coffee cup.
Yes.
You know, they're trying to avoid that. So he recognizes that they've made this mistake before. And this goes on. Maybe they had a meeting after that. Mm-hmm. You know, we can't have Ogogo and Tyson on the same show throwing right hands to people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even though his is a gut punch, but it's still two boxers. Yeah.
Kip Sabian backstage finally runs into Miro.
Now, again, Miro has been searching for him.
Yes.
Miro's been searching for him.
He didn't bother to check the ring.
He didn't bother to check the ring.
He
20
didn't look at
minutes
the
ago,
monitor.
Kip Sabian was down ringside for a solid 15 minutes.
Correct.
But he couldn't find him.
Miro looked amazing, looked jacked.
Yeah.
Looks pretty cut. He attacked Sabian, slammed his arm in a door. A lot of punishment. This was done because Sabian was not responding to his attempts to reach him. Miro then, after beating him down,
video game match.
Correct, which is when this should have been over with.
Yes.
But he slammed the arm in the door, and then as Sabian was on the ground selling it, Miro then hugged him and said, "It's okay. I'll make mistakes."
Okay. So gang style beatdown.
To end this, we had the TNT title match, the champion Darby Allin versus 10 of the Dark Order. The match was, it didn't wow me. I was cool with it. Mm-hmm. I know you were not as big of a fan because you say that you've kind of been a little staled off recently with the Darby Allin matches. You feel that they've been the same type matches lately.
Yes, they have been. That's my, and I like Darby Allin. He's fresh, something new. Problem is, it's the same style match. Takes the beating right away, beats down, minor comeback, gets the shit kicked out of him. Then all of a sudden, does the comeback as we're getting to the top of the hour, coffin drop, 1, 2, 3. That's the match. Or coffin drop through the table through Matt Hardy. 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's kind of the step we've had, it's my problem. I understand he is closing it because he is the TNT title holder and they're holding that to the utmost. But why can't
And he should be working every week. It's like the TV title.
Why can't we put him at the 8 o'clock slot? Why does he have to always end the show? And I guess my problem is just the match.
Why do we need Sting with him?
We don't need that either.
We don't need that anymore.
We didn't need Sting for the last 10 appearances.
But I guess now we got our answer as to why they continue to have Sting come down with him, because the meat of this, after the match, 10 helped Allin up in a show of respect. He raised the Black Brody armband up in honor of the late Brody Lee. And with the Dark Order out of the arena, Well, the match, we didn't really get much interference during the match, but then towards the end, we start to see Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky show up.
Yeah.
They come out and they attack Allen and Sting. Sky applied a heel hook on Sting while Ethan Page forced Allen to watch. And then we end the show with Lance Archer and 10 hitting the ring to chase the heels away. Now Archer, is he heel? Is he babyface? Is he babyface? Is he heel? We're still trying to figure this out with him. Wasn't he just coming at Sting a couple of weeks ago, interfering in a promo?
Yes.
And then I guess we squashed that when Sting gave some nice compliments to Archer, so that was enough to get the big man to go away.
Yeah. And now
they're all on side. So now we're probably going to have an 8-man tag.
Probably.
Yeah. It will be Sting and Allen and 10 and Archer versus Page.
Here's my whole thing too with that. You have the Dark Order on 10's side, right?
How many Cages and Pages do we need on this roster?
There's a lot. Yeah.
With Christian Cage, Brian Cage, Ethan Page.
Yeah. Way
Hangman Page.
We didn't think about that changing their names. But the Dark Order is a gang of themselves. They got like 10 guys. Where the hell were they when the 10 guy comes running out again to hell? I mean, that would have put it all to rest, but no, we got to have that. And like you said, Lance Archer, we don't know what we're doing with him. We're all over the place with him. And again, he should be another guy they hot-shotted in the title picture right away to go against Moxley. And ever since then, there's really been nothing for him. So there you go.
There you go. AEW Dynamite in the books.
Oh, that's right. We had a loaded microphone spot too.
We did. Who got popped with that again?
I forgot, but this is how it sounds like. But again, that knocks people out.
Yes.
Literally.
Well, this is what did it in. The Rock Mankind halftime match with the bag of popcorn.
But again,
it all went to hell after that.
But that was funny because they were in the concession stand. It's not like they get the loaded mic.
Who sells a bag of popcorn? You get hit in the face with a bag of popcorn, you're like, oh.
There's plastic. You could get strangulated and stuff.
There could be seeds that haven't yet become popcorn. It could hurt.
You get that lodged somehow in your throat. You're gasping for air.
Slade, PJ, Bush League Mud Show. Shout outs once again, producer Nate, Dizzy Core Studios. We'll be back at you next week talking about this horse shit. Like and subscribe. See ya.